I got a rather great looking case here with me today, guys, fitted with both a fan control and light control. NZXT calls this a smart hub, and in this video we're gonna give this hub as well as the rest of the case a solid go to find out if the $120 price tag makes any sort of sense. Coming up, hey, how is it going, guys? Robin here on Chips Media. Today we're gonna take a look at the best looking ITX case of 2018 in my opinion. It's called NZXT H200i, and with that said, let's jump into it. Now, in terms of size, the H200i is really small. It measures in at 37 centimeters in length, 21 centimeters in width, and 34.9 centimeters in height. And before you start telling me that this is not small for being an ITX case, I'm gonna correct myself. You are completely right, because although it's smaller than most standard size cases, it is actually far from the smallest in its realm. But I would strongly argue that it's still very small. Wait till you see it yourself. Having it standing right next to me on my desk is such an awesome feeling. Being able to see all those sexy components light up and spin around in there, this is something that keeps me going for some reason. But yeah, let's do a comparison. On the right hand side we got the Fractal Design Define R4, a fairly normal sized ATX case. Yeah, the difference is quite noticeable. Talking a bit about the color, now you might say, but Robin, I don't like red. In fact, I actually hate red. Hey, I'm happy to say, my friend, this case comes in a total of 4 different coloring themes. We got blue black, black black, white black, and red black. How would I best describe this red color? Have you ever seen a Ferrari? The scarlet red is pretty accurate. Very vibrant, still not that in your face, if you get what I mean. Now, here's the number one biggest concern that probably gonna shy most people away. Its price tag. NZXT is asking $129 for it, and while I surely agree it sounds like a lot for a small case like this, before you quit this video, let me explain why you have to pay premium for it. First and foremost, there is no plastic here, nada. Secondly, we got tempered glass, got built-in lighting, a smart device that is double teaming as a fan hub, and a lightning control that is all orchestrated through a software called CAM that we're gonna talk a little bit more about in a second. Now, what makes a lot of sense though is the fan control. Being able to run several fans off of a fan hub is pretty smart in a size like this, since you usually don't find that many fan headers on a small motherboard like the mini-ITX. The major value added is of course the smart hub itself. On the back of the case we find captive thumb screws on the side panel, thanks for that. And the way they made each ventilation pocket on each side makes the side panel just glide on, even if you have a great deal of cables on the back. Don't get me wrong, there's not a whole lot of space here, so you might have to use the cable tightenings, but I mean, why wouldn't you? It's going to give you a nicer looking build in the end, and it wouldn't take you more than a few minutes anyway. Talking about the air pocket in the front, the sides are ventilated and are slightly angled in a way that makes the noise travel away from the user. Very clever. And whoosh, time to jump around to the front. We're looking at dual USB 3, we got audio and mic in, as well as a illuminated power button that have this subtle white halo ring around it. Now, usually I tend to avoid plugging in the light for the power button to avoid that strong lightning in your face. That is not a problem on the H200, and the fact that the IO cable is already bunched up makes the final installation miles easier as well. Now, we got pre-installed dust filter on every location, though it should be said that the filter covering up the 120mm fan on the top are using a a filter that is actually located on the inside in between the case and the fan itself, making it almost impossible to clean, to be honest. This solution is obviously not the smartest we've seen, but I'm glad we at least got a filter here. Guys, I'm gonna let this one slip, since in the end of the day, from a aesthetic point of view, this looks awesome. Again, we find another dust filter on the very bottom of the case. As standard mini-ITX fitting, we find a dual PCIe slots on the back. Jumping once again around to the front of the case, after taking the front panel off, we find first another dust filter, and once you take it off, the dual fan bracket reveals itself, and this one is super easy to take off, just a few thumb screws. And boom, the bracket is ready to be taken out, making the installation of, let's say, an all-in-one radiator kit super easy to install, since you don't have to work inside of the case. Now, since I don't have any radiators laying around, I'm gonna have to leave this one alone. Now, taking a greater look inside of the case, what strikes us first is the nice looking cable shroud, which makes this case, in my opinion, look so much better, and it serves a great purpose as well. As you can see, the shroud covering up the power supply are nicely ventilated, and there's a mounting for a single SSD in front as well. Now, as you can see, there's plenty of room for long power supply units, and in the back of the case there are cable channels that makes the management a cake of peace, or should I say a piece of cake, so to speak. And we find another place for SSDs here as well, up to 2 SSDs in this caddy. And finally, we find this smart device, including both a fan control and lightning. Now, here's the problem with the smart device, since it requires internal USB from the motherboard, and motherboards in this size usually only comes with one single USB connector. You might be running short if you're planning on using a all-in-one cooling solution where you want to be able to control color, fan curves when the connector is already occupied. Now, as you can see, I've already installed everything to the case except the GPU itself, which I think it is time to do right now. We got the clearance up to 325mm, but yeah, that gap will obviously shrink down a bit if you decide to go with the radiator in the front. Damn, I just wish I had one laying around. Now, I gotta say, guys, I think this smart device, or the cam device, the NZXT also calls it, is just awesome. Something to have in mind though, it does require you to have it running in the background of your system, and you do have to make an account to take full advantage of the software, which bugs me a bit, but once up and running, it is marvelous. Being able to set fan speed, play around with cooling patterns as well as overclocking, and being able to keep track of temperatures, etc. in one single software is, in my opinion, a brilliant idea, and I think this complete package is well worth what it costs you. Now, if you don't agree with me, NZXT is actually selling the same case without the smart hub as well, under the $100 mark. Now, I have been running a couple of games, and I'm happy to say that even after hours of gaming, the system never gets noisy. In fact, I was unable to hear much noise coming from the setup at all. Alright guys, time to sum it all up. Alright, so the things I do not like, the cons if you like: the hard drive mounting area doesn't have any vibration dampening rubber grommets, which means you essentially mounting the spinning drive directly onto metal. I don't know if NZXT completely missed this one, or if they actually thought that you should use these mountings, because to be real, I would never recommend anyone mounting a spinning drive with direct contact with metal, not even my worst enemy. So if you're planning on using a mechanical drive in this case, I'd say look elsewhere or go with an external drive, because you don't want to use this solution. Number 2, although cam is great, having to make an account in order to take full advantage of the software bugs me a bit. This is the take many developers force us to do nowadays, and yes, I do get it, but I think the cam software would have been even greater if it was possible possible to control fan curves without having the software running in the background. To me, this isn't the way to go, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this as well. Now, that being said, the things I do like, however, is the cam software. When you have logged in and everything is set up, it is awesome. This is a fantastic tool altogether. Routing cables and dealing with cable management is usually not the most fun part, especially not in smaller cases. Now, this wasn't the case with the H200i. Thanks to the cable channels, etc., made the cable routing a piece of cake. I gotta say, it's quality from top to bottom here. We got dust filters everywhere. Also, something I love is the strip mounted in the top. It can be customized in various ways to fit your style. We got tempered glass. The shroud covering the cable management is very clever and adds a cool style to the build itself. The material used is all metal. There is no plastic here at all. The clearance is also something I like. We got support for power supplies up to 311 millimeters. We got supported graphics cards up to 325 millimeter, and we're able to fit a 240 millimeter radiator in the front. We're also able to mount CPU coolers up to 165 millimeters clearance, which include most models out there. Last and definitely not least, included fans move quite a lot of air and becomes almost silent when operated through the cam software. Guys, that's it. That's the whole coverage of this case. Now let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on this case? Let me know, share all your details. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Until next time, have an awesome day, alright? Bye.